got through this snowstorm pretty well and had a chance to play with some snowmen and snowballs and things of that nature. Thank you for joining us this evening. We are here this evening to talk about our right-sizing plan. Before we get started, I would like to recognize our board members that are here. Of course, my name is Shonda Stovall. I am the board chairman. We have our vice chair, Mr. Ed Lowry. We have Mr. Walter Eubanks. We have Ms. Venus Kane. We have Ms. Mary Jane Abbott, Ms. Shante Boyd, Ms. Samantha Valentine, and Ms. Monique Braswell. We also have our senior team here. Of course, you know we have Dr. Melinda Cobb. She's our superintendent. I saw Dr. Tommy Welch, he's our deputy superintendent, and Mr. Marcus Allen, who's also our deputy superintendent. What our plans are tonight is we want to hear your ideas and input and also share with you the proposed plan of what's happening. I want to start by expressing our sincere appreciation for showing up to all of our meetings that we've held so far and for you giving us the feedback, whether it was through a phone call, whether it's through your emails, or whether it's through your public comment at previous hearings. We want you to know that we are listening. We hear you. We are listening. You should have received, especially our Josie alumni family, you should have received a letter in the mail from me and the board on behalf of the board in the Richmond County School System addressing the concerns that you have. But tonight, we're going to talk about Barton Chapel, Jenkins White. We're going to talk about all the schools that are in our proposed plan. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is twofold. First, we want to hear your vision. You want you to hear the vision and the plan that's being presented by the superintendent and the facilities masters. No decision has been made. We have not voted on any decision yet. Our next meeting for the decision will be on February 23rd. We invite you all to come out to the Board of Education at 864 Broad Street to be a part of that board meeting. Tomorrow afternoon, we will also have another public right-sizing meeting at the Board of Education at 12 noon. Thursday, I'm sorry, I thought it was, I'm off. Today is Tuesday. Monday, today is Monday. I ain't had no sleep, y'all. I'm my mother's caretaker. I ain't had no sleep, y'all. It will be Thursday at 12:30, correct? At the Board of Education at 864 Broad Street. It's 12, I don't know what I'm doing then. It's 12 or 12. Get there at 11. Get there at 11. That way you know you won't miss it. Somebody will help you get to your seat, and you'll be there whether we start at 12 or 12:30. But we invite you to come out and to be a part of it. Also, we're going to have a presentation here tonight for you to see what the proposed plans are. At the end, we're going to give you an opportunity to come over and leave a comment about what you've heard, what you've seen, and what you would like to share, because this is your community, and we want to make sure that we align our students' facilities and their buildings and their education with 21st century, coming into the 22nd century, alignment for education and what's available for them to go into. We want to make sure that our students receive the best education and the best facilities with the best programming that we can offer. So without further ado, I would like to turn this over to, and I would like to, good evening, Commissioner Clark. We'd like to welcome Commissioner Clark to our meeting here as well. If there's any other elected officials in the building, please raise your hand so that we can acknowledge you properly. All right, thank you, sir, Mr. Clark, for being here. But without further ado, I would like to turn this presentation over to Dr. Cobb. She will be giving you the presentation and our step-by-step proposal, and you will have an opportunity to ask questions, make your comments at the end at this mic over here. Dr. Cobb?
Thank you, President Stovall. Welcome. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. As we share our vision about the Richmond County school system and what it can be, where we are right now, and where we want to go in our future. Tonight, I'll be going through our presentation. We are going to begin with Barton Chapel, but we will back up and repeat some of the information that we have shared about all of the other schools as well. So I want to kind of talk a little bit tonight about how we got here. So before we get into it, I want to establish some ground rules because I don't want anybody to feel caught by surprise. So this is a public hearing, which means that we're going to all listen to one another. We're going to model for our students and our young people what it looks like when adults have civil discourse. We're going to listen to one another. We're not going to shout over one another so that everyone can remain in the room and become a part of the conversation. So one of the things that you probably picked up as you were coming in is a comment card. If you choose to come and make public comment at the end after my presentation, you just need to fill out your information, tell us who you are, and tell us your city and state, and then state your comment. We will have one opportunity for each person to be able to come up, and we're going to follow our 3-minute time limit. So we ask you to be mindful about your thoughts and keep that inside of the 3-minute mark. We do want to have no shouting, no personal attacks, or disruptive behavior. Please remain courteous to all participants. And I know that you guys already know these things. Do want to ask you to use the microphone. This is very important that everyone is able to hear, including our court reporter. So please speak directly into the microphone. If you have a question, this is not the format for a question and answer session. If you have a question, there are several ways you can get those questions answered. You'll notice around the room these big blue signs. We have members of each of these different departments. So if you had a question specifically about human resources as it relates to this plan, we'll have our team here. We have team members, and they'll be at each of these signs afterward. There's also an opportunity for you to go to rcboe.org/masterplan, and I'm going to show you a QR code in just a second, and you can actually enter your questions right there. But I encourage you, before you do that, take a look at a very valuable resource on that page, which is our frequently asked questions, because there's a good chance someone has already asked that question and we have the answer posted. We do want to remind that when you come up to the mic that you comment on our plan. Off-topic comments or remarks could be ended by our moderator. And our moderator's role tonight is to help enforce these rules and ensure that everyone has a fair chance to be heard. When we switch over to public comment period, we would like to make sure we are courteous and give our Barton Chapel, Glen Hills Elementary School families an opportunity to come to the microphone first, just as we did recently at our last public hearing. So this is that page I was telling you about at rcboe.org, and it's master plan. There are 2 blue boxes on there. One is called frequently asked questions. You can click right on that and you can see all the questions people have been submitting. We've been answering them as they come in. And then there's also a box for you to share your feedback. That's a great place for you to be able to type in specific questions, because we want to make sure that any question you have gets answered. So if you want, you can see this QR code in multiple places. That's the QR code up there on the screen if you want to use your phone to take you to the question and answer section. Or when you came in, you may have picked up a card with a QR code. Or when you came in, you may have picked up our one-pager that has the QR code. All 3 of those take you to the exact same place so that you can get to the information. I wanted to kind of go over that before we get started with everything so that everybody knows what we're going to do. What I'm going to do next is really walk us through our plan. This is the plan that administration has submitted for proposal for our board members' consideration and for public review. This plan was based out of several task force meetings that were held. You may remember that during the 23-24 school year, we were in full swing. We were out having community-wide meetings. We had some virtual meetings, 6 public hearings. We had additional meetings with the impacted communities. And so overall, from our surveys, 259 people completed the survey at that time. And when we sent out for survey number 2, we had 1,900 that completed it. So a lot of that information is what was used in creating this plan that you are seeing here tonight. You may notice I'm not Tracy Richter. Tracy Richter has been with us through these processes, but we did have to reschedule our hearings due to the weather, and so you have me, which I'm happy to be here tonight to be able to explain the plan for you. So you've seen this slide before. It's been shown, and it's like, why are we doing this? Why do we have to do this? One question I often get is, hey, Columbia County is right next door to us. Why don't we have the exact same things that they have? Well, there's one part of that is very different. They have about the same number of students that we do, but they have half the number of schools. So when we get our state funding, which is by the student, I'm trying to spread it over 52 schools, and they're spreading it over half that. So they're actually able to provide more programming and more resources to their students. So if you look at the graphic there, we're trying to take the pie and cut it up into such tiny pieces that sometimes, in my opinion, our students don't get everything that they deserve. And we want to help make sure that every student gets the most. So these are things we know. We have some aging buildings that are away from the students where they serve. Some of the students are riding a bus for a while. We have declining enrollment, which we'll take a look at. But birth rates in general, not just here in Richmond County, across the entire country, are decreasing. I can look at my own home. Both of my parents they came from 4 siblings. I came from 3. I have 1. So that's just an example in my own life of where enrollment is declining because birth rates are down. But we want to make sure that we don't have inequitable programs. We want to disrupt that so that no matter which zip code you live in, you have the same resources as other students. And we also want to, district is unable to capture the maximum state funding, which was what I was telling you earlier. I get the money, but I have to spread it out over so many more schools. So this is a graphic we've used before, and I want to take a moment. This is completely symbolic. I want to make sure you understand that. This is symbolic. The state helps fund based on the number of students. So if you look at that first one, you'll see that if a school is running less than 450 enrollment, what the state gives you is a principal and a part-time nurse. And a lot of those other positions are funded with the local dollar. When you look at that middle, if you have less than 600, I want to make sure we show you what's here. It says art teacher, band teacher, health science, and CTAE. Those are examples. What that means is we can't offer all of those same fine arts at every single school without the local dollar trying to pay all of that. So in many of our schools, we don't even have all of these places. Like we don't even earn a part-time guidance counselor in almost every elementary school. But you need a full-time. So all of the local dollars are coming in on top of that. If you look at the next one, when you have a high school with less than 1,000, you get one principal and about 2 APs, a media specialist, and a nurse, and then you get some of those connection classes. Our colleague pointed out to us, and I want to say he's absolutely correct. You have to have 2 JROTC instructors in order to have a program. But what we're trying to make the point of is that I can't offer a lot of CTAE choices to all of our schools when we are underfunded. Here is the difference, and you've seen this shared by the group in the past. When you have at least 450 at the elementary, you begin earning all of those positions. So at the elementary level, we could have an art and a music and a PE teacher. You can have everybody. When you take a look at middle schools, if they have at least 700, we can have those connection classes as well as some CTAE courses. And if you look at our high schools, you have to get all the way to 1,500 before you start really earning all that. So sometimes what we say is that the sweet spot is that an elementary really needs to have at least 450 or more, that middle schools need to have at least 700, and high schools need to have at least 1,500. You may know the size of our high schools. We are nowhere near that number right now. So when we look at a timeline on how we got here, this process began with the company. They've been coming out. We opened Bel Air Middle School. We've opened the Richmond Hill. We closed Abraham Mary, had boundary changes in 2024. We closed Spirit Creek, had boundary changes. And then we also worked in that 25, which brings us to where we are now around consolidating and combining Langford Tut. So if you'll recall, part of what we did was at Langford Middle School. A portion of it was rezoned to be a part of Bel Air Middle School. And the other portion was moved into the Tut facility where they were with them. They're there with them right now until the new facility is built right there on Walton Way. Then they will come over to that new school. So those are all of the pieces that we have done together so far. So tonight I'm going to talk a lot about Barton Chapel. What is happening here with Barton Chapel in our community? It's a lot of exciting work, but we do have a bit of a transition ahead of us as we get ready. So this is a map, and we sometimes talk about NPUs, and that stands for a Neighborhood Planning Unit. So we have a map of the entire Richmond County, and it's divided by neighborhoods, and each neighborhood has a number. And we are able to track how many school-age children live in each of those neighborhoods. So whenever you see this map, what we're looking at here for Barton Chapel, what's going to happen here? I'm going to kind of tell it to you in plain words, and we'll make sure we have this. There is a small piece of the Barton Chapel neighborhood, which is what we know as Belfair Lakes. It's around the way on Gordon Highway. It would be permanently rezoned to be a part of Bel Air Elementary, Bel Air Middle, Westside High School. There are 14 students total, pre-K through 12, in that neighborhood planning unit. Part of the reason why is because the bus is already traveling down Gordon Highway, taking the students to Bel Air. All of the rest of Barton Chapel will go over to Glen Hills Elementary School for the next 2 years. That means Glen Hills Elementary School will be full, and it means we're going to have 10 portables on site to make sure that they all have room to fit. What will happen here? This building will be what we could say raised. It will be completely torn down, and a brand new elementary school that can hold 800 students will be built here on this campus. I'm going to show you pictures of it and kind of talk to you a little bit about that. This is the way we begin to maximize our resources. We need to build schools that are closer to the size of 800 so that we can consolidate 2 schools into one and help make sure that those students have plenty of resources. So this is a part of what you see up here on the board. And then also want to acknowledge there are 2 pre-K classes here at Barton Chapel that would be reassigned to neighboring elementary schools. And we don't know which one those will be yet. That's something we'll work with Bright from the start to decide. But if you applied for pre-K, or if you do apply for pre-K when it opens in March, you'll see that Barton Chapel is not listed as one of the choices to apply to. All right, let's talk about a little bit over here, the new Barton Chapel. So the new school here at the Barton Chapel site will open in the fall of 2028, assuming weather is good, assuming that there are no delays. They will open right on time in the fall of 2028. And all of the students together, the ones who've been housed together, who've been becoming friends for 2 years over at Glen Hills, all of them will come over together to this new site. And at that point, we will close Glen Hills Elementary School. Both Barton Chapel and Glen Hills Elementary feed today directly into Glen Hills Middle, Glen Hills High. So there will be no change in their feeder pattern. But what it does do is it allows the students currently at Barton Chapel and the students currently over at Glen Hills Elementary to come together and have all of those resources. So this shows you that with there's 700 of them. When you put them all together, that's 700 students. And you're like, exactly? I double-checked that myself. It's 399 going from Barton Chapel, 301 at Glen Hills Elementary for 700. So when those 700 students come back into an 800 capacity building, they'll be at an 87% utilization. That's a great number for facilities, and it's a great number to help make sure that they get all of those resources like we shared with you earlier. But what will it look like? So this is a concept design. I do want to say, don't hold me to, you said there would be an orange stripe. It might change, okay? But a part of what we're building here is a $47.5 million investment that was voted on in our last SPLOST. That's already approved. So the new facility would open in the 28-29 school year, and that's a part of, you can kind of see what it would look like from the front. Here's some designs of the floor plan. But this is what I would encourage you to do. This is what we call a site adapt plan. What does that mean? That means we've built this school 3 times now. We built it the first time over at Wheeless Road. We took all the things that didn't work, all the things we wish we had, and then we built Richmond Hill Elementary School. So using the same design, but making it better each time. This is now going to be the 3rd time. So we really feel like we've lived in this space. We know what we need. So if you are curious, you could go by Richmond Hill Elementary School with an appointment, and you could see that facility and see basically what's going to be built here at this site. The next thing I want to show you is just an aerial view. So we are going to have to change the orientation. Currently, Barton Chapel is kind of sitting this way. We're going to change that angle. So the angle and the footprint of the school will change in order to be able to have everything that you see here. We're very excited about this plan. I know it's going to be a state-of-the-art facility. I'm confident because we have built it now a couple times. We know what this site looks like, and it's going to offer a lot of opportunities for our students. That big open area in the middle is the nice playground. So we're excited about all those different pieces. Keep in mind that during construction, we have to sometimes make some small changes, but this is essentially what it's going to look like here at this school. All right, so what does this look like during construction? The students from Barton Chapel will transition to Glen Hills Elementary. Oh, I think I lost some words there under the picture. That's right. Additional staff resources would be provided for the students that are going over there. What does that mean? So now over at Glen Hills Elementary, they have more students. Maybe they need an additional MTSS facilitator. Maybe they need a different social worker. So what resources do they need? We'll be working with them to help make sure they have that. And then I mentioned to you about the 10 additional portables being added for their enrollment. What does this mean for faculty and staff transition? So first of all, let me tell you, we always have a job for people in Richmond County. In fact, any of you looking for a job, please see HR. We are always looking for great quality people to work with us here in Richmond County School System. So no one will be without a job. No one is without a job. Anytime we do a merger, we try to get as many of the staff and the faculty to go with the students to where they are going. It's to our advantage, our students' advantage, and our families' advantage. For the Barton Chapel folks who want to go over to Glen Hills, we want to try to keep them together. That way when the families walk in, they say, oh, I know Miss So-and-so, right? I'm familiar with this person. But our human resources team would work with every single staff member here at Barton Chapel to help make sure they know where they are going to go for the upcoming school year if the board approves our plan. In fact, we actually have our first staff meetings like 1 to 2 days after the board vote so that we can start to let our staff know exactly what to expect. So after construction, approximately school year 2028, the consolidated Glen Hills Elementary staff and students would move completely right out of Glen Hills Elementary into this space. That's how that works because they've been becoming a family together for the previous 2 years. What does it look like on a timeline for facilities? Well, demolition would start here this summer. We say immediately after the end of the semester. As soon as our teachers box everything up, they will know already where they're going. Our maintenance and facilities team will take it to their new school. So we'll move them out and get ready to get started with construction. There would be a naming committee that is formed because this would be a new consolidated school. If you think with me for a minute on the example I used with Langford Tut, at the time, the students from Langford went to Tut. And then we had a naming committee. The naming committee selected the name Langford Tut. So when they move into their new building over on Walton Way, they're moving into Langford Tut. That same kind of process will happen here. I don't know what name we'll pick. That's the job of the naming committee, and I'll talk a little bit about how that works. But our target is to move our staff in the summer of 2028, and the target is to occupy this school with the 28-29 school year. This is a little bit about the process for a naming committee. So this is something that we do anytime we have a new school or a new program. We come together and we bring in folks from staff members from the district office. We have some board members if it's their district. We have school staff. We have parents. We have community members. There's always a local historian available, and we have alumni who have close ties to the school. All of those people come together, and we have a minimum of 2 meetings. At the first meeting, it's usually our historian telling us all about the area. And then we start brainstorming. What's a good mascot? What are the colors? What would be a good name? You walk away, you think about it, you ponder. Then we come back together for that second meeting, and our committee makes a recommendation to our board. So far, we've done a good job. Our board has approved the recommendations that we have brought forward. And so that would be presented to the board by the cluster superintendent. As soon as they vote, we try to get this work going because we're picking out colors, you're picking out mascots. It's all the different things that are going to help make the school very special. So that naming committee would get started pretty quickly. All right, at this point, I'm going to transition from talking about Barton Chapel, Glen Hills, to talk for just a moment about next steps with our Langford Tut transition. So for the fall of 2026, at the end of this school year, Tut Middle School will close as a middle school. So Tut right now is called Tut. It'll close as a middle school. And then the consolidated school, which has already been named Langford Tut, that went through a naming committee with board approval, it's going to open for school year 26-27. Unfortunately, construction is not quite done yet. So they're going to remain there at the Tut Middle School facility for one more semester while we finish construction. We estimate that we want to move in the staff right before they go home for Christmas, and that when the children come back from the break, they start school at the new facility. This is going to be voted on. This has already kind of been approved, and what the board still has to do, though, is vote to officially close Tut Middle School as a school so that we can transition that site. If you think back to what I was sharing with Barton Chapel, Glen Hills, it'll be a very similar thing. Because when they move out of Glen Hills Elementary, you have to officially close Glen Hills Elementary as a school so that they can come back into the new space. That one was pretty straightforward. All right, I want to talk a bit about Jenkins White. So the rest of this presentation is going to be information you've heard before as it relates to Jenkins White and Murphy. When we get to the Josie section, we have new information. Some of you have already read that in our open letter to the community, but we want to make sure we go over it with all of you tonight. So at Jenkins White, it will close at the end of this school year. And each of those students will be reassigned to a new elementary school in their neighborhood or in their neighboring area. We're going several places. Some of the students will leave Jenkins White and go to Hines Elementary. Some will go to Wilkinson Gardens. You'll notice some are going from Jenkins White to Lamar Millage, and some are going to Hornsby Elementary. So they'll be reassigned to their new school. These are all of the NPUs. These are all of the numbers up here that you'll be able to see on the board if you would like to be able to go back and take a look at that. But what does this mean for students? So our students will receive a letter to their parents in March notifying them of their zone change. In that letter, they are invited to come to an open house at the new school so they can go to one of those areas to see their new school and meet their new teachers and their principal. Jenkins White would close at the end of this school year, and the students will begin attending their new zone school in August of 2026. What does it mean for the staff? Very similar to what you heard me say about Barton Chapel. We have a job for everyone. I'm going to keep doing that commercial, right? We'd love to hire, we can keep great staff. But our students are going to try to follow those, our staff follows the students. So we get as many of them as possible over to Wilkinson Gardens, to Lamar Millage, and to Hornsby. And that's the same thing for our staff and our faculty. Some staff members have asked, well, what if I didn't want to go there? I want to apply to a school next to my house. Of course, you are welcome to do that during the transfer process. All of these employees have the opportunity to participate in our transfer process. We just try to prioritize helping make sure that we can get as many of the previous staff to go with the students as possible. All right, let's talk a little bit about Murphy Middle School. We are proposing to close Murphy Middle School. Murphy would be divided and would go to 3 different middle schools. Some would go, if they live in the Bayville feeder attendance zone, they will go to Langford Tut. If they live in the Wheelus Road area, they will go to Richmond Hill Middle School. If they live in the Wilkinson Gardens area, they will go to Hornsby Middle School. Here's each of those NPUs. You can kind of see it on the map where everybody's going in different directions. What does this look like for students? Same thing, they're going to get a letter this March letting them know their new zone school. The students will be invited to come attend an open house at their new middle school. Murphy would close at the end of this school year, and students would begin attending their new zone school in August of 26. Staff, we have a job for everyone. Students would predominantly, our staff would follow our students, so we try to get as many of them as possible at Hornsby Middle School, Langford Tutt Middle School, and Richmond Hill Middle School. I want to give you kind of an example. When we dissolved the attendance zone there at Langford, they had 2 APs. One went with the students to Bel Air, and one went with the students to Tutt. That's the same thing we try to do here. How can we get the APs and the counselors placed with these students at their new schools so that families see familiar faces when they get there? That was a lot of MPUs. So this is a QR code. It's available on our website. But what you can do when you go here is it allows a family to type in their address, and it will tell you, what is your proposed elementary school? What's your proposed middle school? What's your proposed high school? So this QR code is what we call a student locator dashboard. Let's talk a little bit about TW Josie. I want you to see that date at the very top. These are proposed changes for 2029-2030 school year. So I'm going to go over what some of these changes are and then talk about what it looks like between now and then. So the feeder, the attendance zone for Thomas Walter Josie High School would go away at the end of the 28-29 school year. And those students would be rezoned to a different high school. So they'll follow the same place Murphy just went. So if you lived in the Bayville, you go Langford Tutt Middle and ARC. If you live on the Wheeless Road, you go Richmond Hill Middle, Butler. And if you live in Wilkinson Gardens, you go Hornsby Middle and Laney. So those are the different areas where we have people being relocated. So what does that look like in these 3 years? So I don't want to assume people know. 26, 27, 27, 28, 28, 29. Those 3 years, our Josie family would stay together whole. The staff, the 9 through 12 students. But they're going to go to school in what we call a swing space. They're going to go to school in the Murphy building. And yes, it can hold all of them. But it's not going to be, they're not going to have all the luxuries they had in their previous site, but we're going to keep them together by request. So they stay together. That means all sports, all extracurricular activities will continue while the students are housed in the Murphy building. The students will continue to graduate with a TW Josie Comprehensive High School diploma at least through 28-29, because all they are doing, and I don't want to downplay it, but all they are doing is going to school in a different building, but it's business as usual otherwise. The students would receive their letter in the spring of 2029 notifying them of their new zone, which would either be ARC, Butler, or Laney, and then the students would attend their new zoned high school beginning in the August of 2029. Unless they choose the new school, which we'll talk about. What does this mean for our staff? So again, we have continued need for all faculty and staff. The staff would remain with the Josie students in the Murphy building for those 3 years. The staff would be offered positions within the school system for the 29-30 school year. Any staff member who would wish to interview for the new College and Career Academy at the TW Josie site, we at least are guaranteeing you an interview. That's what we can guarantee. You can guarantee that you get an interview to come have a seat at the table if you are a staff member at Josie and you want to apply to be at the College and Career Academy. So this is the part I get excited, and I think my board member said they can hear my excitement. We've been planning and working with this new College and Career Academy concept for several years now. So what I'm going to do is spend some time just telling you about, like, what is this thing that we're building? Everybody's talking about it. What is it? Well, it is a lot of concept right now, but I at least want to share what those concepts are. This is what we call a concept drawing. But we have $43 million that have already been set aside for this investment. That was already approved by our voters in our SPLOST. We don't need to collect any additional money. We're looking at opening this in 29-30. It would include the current Marion Barnes Career Center, I want to show you some thoughts we had on the arch and its preservation, and also talk about kind of what we're doing with the current competition gym. So if you'll allow me, I'm going to walk through this graph. So this is the current Murphy building. This is where all of the core classes would happen: ELA, math, science, social studies, world language. But we need to do a few changes to the Murphy building. You may not be aware, but they have what's called a satellite media center, which means they have a tiny media center. Well, this school needs a full-size media center, so we have to build that. We need to build a space for the administration. So we're going to go in and we will do that. Currently, there is a gym here for Murphy. That will become the Josie PE gym. That's where currently some of our students, we talked about in one of the meetings, what would you do to honor Tebow? We have his name on the gym in the old gym. This could easily be named after. We could do that here. It doesn't currently have any naming. Those are some things we can consider. The performance gym, we're not planning to do anything to it. Josie has a huge performance gym. You leave it. Somebody started a rumor saying we were going to tear up the football field. No, just the opposite. We're actually working on the turf fields for the area. So the baseball fields, all of the athletic facilities stay. All of them stay. They're already there, and they're in good condition. The cafeteria is currently shared by both Murphy and Josie, and we need to do some cosmetic work in there, and so that is going to be done. But here's where the bulk of the work will happen. The current Josie building, minus the Marion Barnes Career Center, would be torn down. And what comes back in its place is a state-of-the-art CTAE facility to rival anything in the state. Believe me, we've been studying them and looking at them all across the state and the whole Southeast. So in 2023-24, we also had a group come in. It's the Carl Vinson Institute out of the University of Georgia. They studied our economy, they met with focus groups, and they gave us a prediction. These are the careers that the Augusta area is going to need. They look at how many jobs are available, they look at how many people are applying for those jobs, and then how many remain open. It's really basic workforce development proposal that they gave us. And so they gave us a list of what they call high demand career pathways. That means these are the jobs that we are going to need here in our Augusta area, and they pay enough that families won't have to work 2 jobs. So those are like the 2 parts of the consideration that we looked at. These are the ones they recommended, and so we've mapped it out here. But remember, this is a concept, so don't hold me to it and say you said that health science was going to be right here. All right, so we said health science is one of the pathways we want to add there. Yes, we know we have A.R. Johnson, but guess what? We need more people in the health profession. If you've ever tried to get somebody to come do in-home health care, they're hard to find. Like, there is a lot out there, and so we want to have phlebotomy. We want to have CNA program. We want to have a health science pathway right here at Josie, that whole cluster. Then this one is energy. It's kind of hard for you to be able to see it there. The energy pathway, part of what they told us is that there's growing, we have things like Plant Vogel, we have a lot of energy around us, and so they said we need to have more students who are trained and are ready to enter the field in the energy pathway. This next one is agriculture cluster. I'm going to tell you, at first I said, agriculture, are you sure? And they said, yes, you do not have enough in urban ag. And when they started telling, I started learning all about the things that urban agriculture offers in hydroponics. Part of what we've been able to do also is partner with the Tiger Woods Learning Lab. You guys may have heard that they're going to be opening in 2028, but we want to partner with them and Augusta Tech over at the Patch, if you may be familiar, but they're looking at like landscape management and how we can work together. So these are some of the things that we'll be doing in agriculture. All right, this one is the IT cluster. Currently, we are busing students over to the RCTCM to participate in what we call the Cyber Academy. And so we are looking at how can we incorporate the Cyber Academy here in this facility. IT is just not going away. I mean, I bet almost every one of us use some kind of technology, maybe even AI today. So how do we get our students ready? This piece here is early childhood education. One of our friends was talking to me before we started, so we need to bring back when we used to have a daycare site here at the school. That's what we want to do. We want to be able to have, some of you might remember when schools used to have those early childhood programs. Y'all remember, I was at Josie with Cheryl Kofer and we had the program. Okay, so some of you might remember that. We want to be able to bring some of that back. Within every one of these spaces, what we're trying to do is create an opportunities for students to learn in the classroom and then apply it in a lab setting. So that takes us to this next one, which is culinary arts. I'm really going to rely on you to come help me with this. We want to open up a culinary arts pathway that has back of the house, front of the house. What does that mean? They learn how to run the kitchen, how to run a restaurant, but then this front side that's facing 15th Street will be a restaurant. And we have a vision that'll be open every Friday for the public to come by, please come, and eat and let our students run a restaurant that day. And then you'll notice also a CTAE administrative office. That is because this part of the building will also be open to any student in the county between 4 and 6 p.m. It's almost like a night school class. Any student from any high school can come over to the facility and take some of these CTAE classes. This kind of beige color area is currently the Marion Barnes Career Center. And so the high demand career pathways that they identified was keeping welding, keeping carpentry, keeping the HVAC. But they said, you're missing something. They need to be able to build the thing. So you'll see this other little beige pad where they'll build a small home. So they'll actually build the home, and then we will relocate that to another site, whether we work through Habitat for Humanity, tiny homes. We have a lot of partners who've raised their hand to try to join us on that. We also want to make sure that we do keep barbering, cosmetology, and each of these pathways, I want to let you know, has an entrepreneurship framework where we work on this. So it's not just learning to be a nail tech, but how do you own your own business? How do we help make sure that you don't need 2 jobs? And then also there's heavy machinery cluster. So what this looks like, I got into the simulator, right? So there's a giant simulator machine, and you get in and you learn how to drive a forklift. And you get your hours actually on the simulator. And once you get a certain number of hours, you get your license, you get your credential. One of them is a backhoe. I accidentally tipped it over, so I got kicked out, right? But the kids get to go in and they get to learn how to do these heavy machinery so that they can go straight to work. What is happening here in this whole facility is that there's a desire for community jobs and community business partners to partner with the school system. So design-wise, we have little kind of fake storefronts whenever you're in the health science area. We have an idea, what does it look like if right there on the wall they see Thomas Walter Josie and a quick history of who he was and how he contributed to the health science field. We have a vision that whenever I take a look at the IT cluster, there's a storefront that lets you know I'm kind of in the IT area. Maybe we highlight Ben Chestnut, and I don't know if you know him, but he graduated from Hepzibah High School and started a billion-dollar business called Chimp Mail, right, in IT, right? And MailChimp, thank you, all right? And so how do we take, and we would rely on our community. Help me find those other legends. Maybe we honor Larry Jones and Universal Plumbing, like in the design, in the pictures, in the names, so kids can see what they can be. And so that's something we really want the community to help us with as we build. This big open area here is what we call like the hall, the foyer, the welcome, because we also want to bring our 8th graders over for field trips. So CTAE would be working with each of our students so that when they come in, you'll see we just kind of temporarily said, this is where maybe the Josie Arch would go, but that's still obviously very much up for where the group decides you want it. But they come in for these field trips where we talk about your careers. We talk about your U-Science test that you took. What careers do they say would be great for you? We learn about it. We do all kinds of great hands-on activity. And then the kids are going to go into these classrooms and do hands-on activity. 1 of 2 things will happen that day. They might say, hey, look, I love this place. I want to come to school here, score. Or they might say, this is something I know I don't want to do. All right? This is not the career for me, which I always say is just as valuable opportunity for those 8th grade students. So when you look at this next slide, those are all the career pathways that I just talked about. They're just listed out for you. And then also we want to let you know that the students that come to school here, some will choose to do a traditional 23 credit high school diploma. That's kind of what we do at all of our high schools. But other students are going to choose the accelerated career diploma. Some will decide they want to get an associate's degree because we want to have all of that built into the programming as well. And something I'm not sure if our community fully understands is what does it mean to have an accelerated career diploma? So the way that it works is that it allows our 10th through 11th grade students to go ahead and earn their high school diploma while also earning their technical college credential. So the post-secondary, they've got to do one of these things. They've got to either get an Associates of Applied Science degree, or they get a technical college diploma, or they get 2 technical certificates of credits, what we call TCCs, in a specific approved pathway, like HVAC or welding. So they're getting that and 9 high school credits. That's 2 English, 2 math, 2 science, 2 social studies, 1 health and PE, and they've got to take any EOCs that go with them. So that is something the state of Georgia has been offering. Other school systems have been doing this way ahead of us. We haven't been doing it. We haven't had a facility, and we hadn't had the space and the way to make it work. So this is going to require a tight partnership with our technical schools. We've been in communication with them once this is approved. But some students might choose to graduate early, but to be honest, that's not really our goal. Our goal is that at the end of your 4 years, you don't just graduate with a high school diploma. You graduate with credentials ready for you to either go on to go to college, if that's what you choose to do, or go straight to work in the workforce. So we think that what makes this kind of special? Well, it's very community inclusive, like the Early Learning Center, like working in the restaurant and having the community come in and eat here with us. It's going to have athletics and clubs. It's still a school. If you have not noticed, in our vision and mission, we talk about our beliefs that we think it's important for every student to have an educational experience. Well, guess what? That experience means you get to participate in activities. We've had some example. We had a football team this past fall that played their hearts out with 22 people. If you know football, that means you play offense and defense, and you did not rest. You have increased opportunity for injury. We had a high school that did not have enough young ladies to have the softball team. They had to forfeit the whole season because we couldn't make a team. I have a 9th grader who wanted to play soccer JV. We don't have enough kids to have a JV sport for soccer, right? So what happens is that we want our students to have these experiences, and we want to offer that. The alumni group, when I met with them previously, kind of said, can you promise me we're going to have this sport? I can't. I can promise you're going to have the facility. I can promise you we'll have a team if we have the students to have the team. So if we have students here that want to play whatever that sport is, we already have all the facilities, we want to be able to offer that. It is going to be a CTAE school, so they have to participate in their CTSO. They have to participate in FBLA or whatever their group is. If it's DECA, whatever it is, you're coming here to be a part of CTAE. It would kind of like be going to Davidson but not being in any fine arts. This is going to be a specialty program around CTAE. We do want to make sure, like I said, we use the Carl Vinson Institute. This is additional opportunities for community industry partnership. And we do want to make sure, transportation would be provided. This would be considered specialized programming. So think magnet schools, think the IB program at ARC, think the advanced placement program at Laney. Transportation is still provided to these students using that same concept. So a question we got a few times, like, who is this building really for? Well, it's for our kids. It's for our kids. And so this is going to open in 2029 for interested 9th through 12th graders. So it'll be interested 9th through 12th. It'll be a choice program. That means you don't take a test. You go there because you want to. Now, once you get here, you need to come. You need to have good attendance. You need to behave, like all those things, because you may have somebody on the wait list trying to get in. All right, programming would incorporate students from the Performance Learning Center, our Learn From Home program, the current Marion Barnes Center, the current Cyber Academy, and currently we have 431 students that are traveling to be in these programs. We want to pull all of that programming design into this facility. You know as well as I do, all 431 aren't going to want to come. Some will say, no thanks, I want to do something different. But even if the majority come, that's a big chunk. Any current T.W. Josie student who would like to participate, sign up. We want you to come as well. And then the comprehensive high school students who want to come in the evenings from 4 until 6 p.m. We kind of talked about that as well. So what happens there at that site? This demolition to the current T.W. Josie facility would begin this summer. Construction would go through the summer of 2029. We would have a naming committee formed to select the name, the mascot, the color. The target move-in is the summer of 2029. The target occupancy will be starting 29-30 school year. That's when we would want to launch and be ready to go. This is the same slide that I shared with you about the naming committee. It's the same process we use. We certainly would want to have our alumni as a part of this, as well as any other community members who are interested in workforce development become a part of this. We would meet 2 times and make a recommendation to our board. Our goal is only to our benefit, is that as soon as the board approves this, if they do, we want to get the naming committee started right away. Let's pick the mascot, the colors, and I want to tell you, I'm telling you this, our board member they have never talked about any name other than T.W. Josie being represented in there. There's no desire to take away that legacy or their history, but we want to follow our process, and we want to have that recommendation come from our naming committee. So I'm going to back up for just a second and talk about this naming committee at Josie, because these are some questions I've gotten a lot. You didn't do that to Laney when you moved them over to Tubman. Well, to be honest with you, it's a totally different scenario. Laney's attendance zone remained completely intact. The Laney attendance zone was the same. All they did was move into Tubman while we tore down their building and put them back in there with the exact same programming they had. We did the same thing at Garrett Elementary. Garrett Elementary left and went over to the Forest Hills building, and they were in there while we tore down their school and we moved them back. But I just shared with you, this is not the same thing. The college and the career academy has a district-wide attendance zone. That means anybody in the district can choose to come here. The programming is different. It's not the same thing. So it is a new school, but we've set a precedent. We used to have A.R. Johnson Junior High School. Now we have A.R. Johnson Health Science and Engineering Magnet. I feel our community, we can name some others. We've sort of set a precedent. We can honor the name of the person while also making sure that the name of the school reflects what it is that the school is doing, so that we can help market and make sure we get students into the space. All right, I'm going to walk you through 3 quick scenarios now that I've told you all about it. In our proposed plan, what does that look like? So I'm going to say, scenario number 1, you are a 6th grade student and you live in the Wheeless Road attendance zone and you attend Murphy today. So this year, you go to Murphy Middle School. Next year for 7th grade, you're going to go to Richmond Hill Middle School. For 8th grade, Richmond Hill Middle School. For 9th grade, you're going to go back over to the Murphy campus where you will attend Josie as a 9th grader. As a 10th grader, you would be zoned for Butler High School, or you can choose to apply for the College and Career Academy. In our original proposal, we went ahead and moved all the students out. We said, let's just go ahead and get them going to their current school, because we felt that there would be a student who said, I'm going to make new friends at Richmond Hill, 7th grade, 8th grade. I'm going to go back over to Josie, then I'm going to come back to Butler for 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. It is very possible that this child might say, hey, Mama, can I get a zone exemption to just go ahead and go to Butler my 9th grade year because I want to go to Butler? They might. But what about, and I think that's what really came from our community, what about the student who wants to go to Josie, who wants to stay there? And how do we keep from accidentally gutting kind of that Josie core to keep them here? And that's why we've changed our proposal. That's why we made these changes. So that's a scenario for a student that lives in Wheeless, but the same thing would be true for Bayville. They'd go Murphy, Langford Tut, come back to 9th grade on the Josie at the Murphy campus, and then either go to the College and Career or go to ARC 10, 11, 12. Same thing, 6th grade student, but you live in the Wilkinson Gardens area. Murphy this year, Hornsby, Josie at the Murphy site, and then Laney High School or the College and Career Academy. Our hope is that this change does preserve some of that community and keeps it from being empty for a couple of years. We were at a hearing and someone said, and I apologize, I don't remember who, once they go, they're not coming back. They might be right. And the intent of this is not to take people out of the Josie community. We want to have them there. We want them to be a part of this if that's what they want to do. So for 3 years, Richmond Hill Middle would be what we call a split feeder. For 3 years, Some students will leave there and go to Butler. Some will go back to Josie. Hornsby will be a split feeder. Some will go to Laney. Some will go back to Josie. Langford Tut was already split. So some are going to Westside, some are going to ARC, and some will go to Josie for those 3 years. Again, if you want to plug in your address to see which high school you would be zoned for in 2930, you can click on this dashboard address locator. It'll take you to where your school is. We are in our public hearing stage. Our board is in review. Our board takes a vote on February 23rd. We begin the next day implementing to make all of this happen to ensure a smooth start to the school year. That's some people are like, wow, it feels like we're rushing this. If we don't get a vote in soon, we don't have enough time to help make sure everybody's rerouted and books and everything's in place. So we want to make sure we're committed to quality. You'll see up here it says High School Task Force. And I left it on the slide because I want to tell you that we're purposely pausing that work. We are not going to move forward with the High School Task Force at this time. I'm going to tell you why. Because it's too soon. Let's wait until we get the new College and Career Academy open. Let's see where the students are. Let's see where they land, where they come from. Then at that point, we'll have a task force come back together and take a look at, do we need to close another high school somewhere in our district? But until then, it's really a premature decision. So we're going to wait, but we'll come back together in a couple years when this is open and we know who's going where, and we'll make some recommendations at that time. Truth be told, we still need to probably close a high school. We have a lot of high schools with empty seats. This one pulls all of our programs together into one place and offers our students an opportunity to do something they haven't had. It's my hope that this is so successful that we can replicate this in another part of the county. I'm going to stop talking and hand it over to our moderator, Mr. Myers, who will quickly go back over the guidelines because I know some of you did come in after this point, and we will hear your input. I want to remind everyone that my staff and I will be here afterwards, all these different blue signs around the room to take any specific questions. You can use that QR code to type your question, and I also encourage you to look at the Q&A before you type yours because your question may already be in there. Mr. Myers.
Thank you, Dr. Cobb, and thank you for that presentation. That was a wonderful, bold vision for our students. I'd like to extend a sincere thank you again to all of our board members for being here and listening to the community. We're now moving into our community listening session. This is your time to share your thoughts, your ideas, your feedback, or the plan presented tonight. Please remember this is a listening session. We ask everyone to remain respectful and keep questions referenced to the proposed plan. Personal attacks, yelling, threats, or any type of accusations will result in you being asked to stop speaking and potentially leave the meeting. We are here to maintain a productive environment for everyone. To honor everyone's time, we are following our regular community comment protocol. You must have filled out one of those comment cards at the table. If you haven't, please see a staff member. They'll take care of that. We ask that you also keep your comments to 3 minutes. We have many neighbors who will want to be heard, and we want to ensure everyone gets their turn. Our leadership, they are taking cards if anyone needs a card still. Our leadership is here tonight in listening mode again. We are recording all comments for the official record to ensure the board has your full perspective before the final vote and the final actions will be taken on February 23rd. Please make your comment, then have a seat. We will respond to questions, if necessary, at the very end of the session, and we will have several members of our leadership team here to stay around to speak directly to you. If you have a long document, a long list of things that you would like to take note, please see one of us, and we will take that into account, and we will read those in full, and someone will get back to you to respond. We're ready to begin this part, and we are going to take up cards. Once again, the line will come around. Listen to this part. The line will come on this side, and the line will begin over there where Mr. Allen is. If you would like to make a comment, the line will be over where Mr. Allen is, and someone will call you, or I will call you up to the microphone to speak.
Will you make sure they know, take your card?
Take your card with you over to the line. I'm just using the card to call you up. Take your card over with you to the line. Thank you so much. Once again, real quick, I want a couple of things. One of them is make sure when you come up to the mic, you state your name and your zip code. And we also want to make sure that anyone that has any questions for Barton Chapel, they have the opportunity to come and speak first. And Glen Hills, excuse me. Barton Chapel Elementary and Glen Hills, if you have any comments or questions, we ask that you come up and speak first.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Bobby Hankerson. I'm a lifetime citizen of Augusta, Richmond County. I live in 30906. I have property in both districts, District 3 and District 4 and District 5, Barton Village and Breeze Hill. I moved in this area around the late 60s. I bought my first house in Barton Village. We created a program called Weed and Seed to weed out all the negative activity, the drugs and all of that, and seed in positive things. I'd like to commend this, the Board of Education, Dr. Cobbs, for coming and educating us, the community, educating us of what's going on. Communication, negative communication or no communication at all is poison to the community. I see we have neighbors that we moved here in Barton Village together. I see some of them here. We fought hard for this area, and I'm so glad that the stepchild, Barton Chapel Road, now is coming to the top in 2028. I look forward for that, for 2028. And I just want to say this, that I'm positive about the change, and it's very good. The naming committee, I just want to say this to the naming committee. When we formed Weed and Seed with Augusta, Richmond County law enforcement, worked hand in hand together, we voted not to change the name of Barton Village. They changed the public housing down on 15th Street and all that. We said when people come back that used to live here, our family, they'll see Barton Village is not the place that what the negative name that it has. So it's still Barton Village. So in the naming committee, I'd like for you to consider Barton Chapel Hills, Barton Chapel Road, Barton Village, and the new school, Barton Chapel Elementary. That's all I have to say.
Good evening. Can y'all hear me? Okay. First thing I would like to do, my name is T.C. Edwards. I'm a 1980 graduate of T.W. Joseph High School. Those Eagles that are here tonight, will you just stand? Those that are here tonight. I want to say to Dr. Cobb and her cabinet and to the board members, we thank you for the changes and the recommendation that are favorable to many of the things that we asked for. We thank you for that. I have a question. Well, you can answer it later, I guess. I've worked at the VA. I've been at the Savannah Riverside 39 years. I've been interpreting policies and federal laws and all of that stuff. I looked at the naming facilities policy of the board, and it seems like Josie is being presented as a brand new school, a school that was not in existence. But in your policy it says, it has been the practice of the Board of Education subsequent to 1978 to name new facilities after localities, communities, neighborhoods, and cities within the county, as well as geographic features, rather than after individuals living or deceased. The question is, if this new facility is being looked at as a new school, would that eliminate naming it Thomas Walter Josie, based on your policy, that it would not be named after an individual that's living or dead? Okay. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Barry, the Air Force JRTC. I'm also known as Dr. Barry, or as the kids call me, Dr. Colonel Barry. Very good presentation. I do have a question. There was no mention of JRTC in the briefing. And in the briefing, where our proposed area would be, in the briefing, there would be a heavy machinery area. So I talked to my bosses in Alabama this morning, and no one's contacted the Air Force on this. And they said, why haven't they talked to you? You're our representative over there. And I said, no one has talked to me. So my question is, what about Air Force JRTC? It's an honest question. We're a good program. We just passed our inspection. All we need now is less than 150 hours of community service, and we got a distinguished unit. All right? I'm really pushing our kids hard, and they're working hard too. In fact, we just competed in the rifle playoffs, a first, 2 years in existence, and we went to the playoffs. It was tight, it was tough, but we did that. There are personnel requirements and there are space requirements for JRTC. I just want to know, are they moving us? If the plan is to move us, then you got to contact the Air Force because there's things you got to do. There are some requirements according to the NDAA that have to be met. Dedicated classrooms, dedicated offices, dedicated storage, and dedicated drill pad. Those are the requirements that have to be met. Just so you know, I don't think this is a good look for Richmond County if you potentially close down a JRTC unit. And I say this with all honesty and all due respect because recently this year at the recent conference that I was let known, all the service chiefs got together with the Secretary of War, Peter Hegseth. Peter Hegseth was told by Congress, the House Armed Services Committee, you will expand JRTC. It's a tall order. He told all the service chiefs, you will expand JRTC. So he gave them, you will expand by 100 units. You got 2 years to do it. Do it. Yes, sir. It wouldn't be a good look where all the services are expanding. Now, probably here in Georgia, they won't expand as much, but in the other states, they will expand. But it wouldn't look good if the Air Force is expanding JRTCs and all of a sudden we're closing. That's not a good look. So that's the question I have is what about JRTC? We can't go anywhere else. We can't. I'm the only I'm Air Force certified. Even though I got a doctorate, you may, I don't know, put me as an AP somewhere else or a principal somewhere else. Oh my God. My certification is in JRTC. There's no other JRTC unit for 100 miles in any direction. So I'm it. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sheffy Robinson. I am the current president of the T.W. Josie Alumni Foundation. I am born and raised here in Richmond County Schools by way of Terrace Manor, Davidson, and then Josie. I even had a little stint at Immaculate Conception, so I'm deeply rooted in this, and I am deeply interested in how this new school materializes, because what I don't want to have happen is kind of what happened with RCTCM. A bunch of programs were promised that never came to fruition. Part of that is when we are doing things that are incredibly innovative, we have to think this all the way through. If it is our intent to teach our students at this level where they are having a more collegiate experience, you have to have collegiate processes. I am a college professor. I've taught at Augusta Tech. I've taught at Georgia Southern. I have taught at East Georgia College. The same expectation for a teacher to teach 7 classes all day will not work in this setting. There will have to be, for this to work, because of course you've seen the other college and career academies across the state. There are about 64 of them, all of them falling under TCSG, Technical College System of Georgia. For this to work, adjunct teaching has to be part of this process. A teacher like me, who is in workforce and economic development with my specialty in business and sociology, can easily come in and teach a class a couple of days a week. This is how we engage our community partners. For this to work, we have to engage our community partners in a slightly different way than we have probably ever seen in this city. There, at some point here in Augusta, we have to stop resting on the laurels of what has always been and take the history that we know and bring it into the future. I will never advocate for the history of Josie to be demolished, but we do need to update. And the only way this works is if we update how instruction happens as well. Else, we are setting our kids up for failure. I am teaching students that are freshmen in college that don't even know how to add a document to an email. I am teaching students that are freshmen in college that can't read. If this is to work, it can't be what we've always done. Also, there are 4 E's in the post-secondary process. Enrollment for students going off to college, enlistment for students who want to join our armed forces, employment for those going straight into the workforce, and entrepreneurship for those who want to start businesses. Entrepreneurship can't be secondary, a piece of the puzzle. It has to be taught with the same rigor that we're teaching everything else. I appreciate what the board is trying to do to make this work, but it can't just be a redux of RCTCM. Thank you.
Yeah. Big man, that's a boy. Okay. Good evening. I'm Bella Robinson. I'm standing in the midst of Levi White. I'm a product of Levi White. And closing Levi White is dear to me because I taught at first I went to school at Levi White. From Levi White to T.W. Josie. And I stand strongly of Levi White because I taught there for 13 years at Levi White. Plus, when they closed Levi White to rebuild Levi White, we went from Adolph to Hines, some went to other schools. But when it came back to Levi White, the teachers did not come back. Only 4 came back to Levi White because what? They got comfortable at those schools and they didn't want to come back. But going back for that time, I didn't go back. I went to another school. But when we closed our schools and we were sending these kids everywhere across the county, they got to have bus service. If those kids miss the bus, how they going to get to school? They're walking to Levi White. Now they're going to Wilkerson Garden. They're going to Hornsby. Everywhere. The transportation is going to be a problem because kids, they're going to miss the bus because the mother didn't wake them up early enough. Then we have a new complex probably coming in the neighborhood. Coming to the neighborhood, 150 units probably coming there, right behind Levi White. Now, what you gonna do with Levi White sitting there for the next 2 years or 3 years? Because in that neighborhood, you start knocking the schools, breaking the windows, stuff like that we don't want to happen. That's a brand new school. That school opened up 2000, year 2000. And it's truly a new school. And I don't want to see Levi White sitting there because I'm fighting myself now in my association, South Nellyville Neighborhood Association, fighting the recreation center in the county commission about the complex that's coming into our community. And I don't think they're coming in until 2028. what Levi White going to be standing there? What you going to plan for Levi White? As a brand new school, it need to be functioning, not sitting there. And I want to see something happen to Levi White. And I would love to see the teachers stay together. Meanwhile, they'll get settled somewhere and they're not coming back. It's always happened like that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to, first of all, say a couple of things about, thank you, Mike. First of all, a couple of things I want to say about T.W. Jones. I went to T.W. Jones in 1964. In 1964, they it was just opened up T.W. Josie. In 1965, they did not have a class, no graduating class in 65. I came out of the first class of T.W. Jones in 1966, along with some of my other colleagues here. When we only had one high school, that was Lucid Lane, and we had so much pride and so much enjoyment in being at that school with Dr. Reese and naming that school after Dr. Thomas Walter Joseph. We stood very strong. We were very proud. We were very excited to just to be there. I heard some good conversation and I heard some stuff I don't understand. It's like what comes first, the chicken or the egg. I heard about the training, the different training they want to do, but when I was at T.W. Joseph, the same program we talked about here was at T.W. Joseph. They called it DCT, Diversified Cooperative Training. We had that when we left the school and went to these different shops. Reverend Hankerson, I've got about 10 cars right now, but I'm stuck because I got in those cars back in those days trying to learn how to mechanic and work on cars, and I'm glad I did. But I heard some of the same type training, but it's just a different name now. What I'm worried about most of all is the history is going to be torn down when, well, I was married, but when I got married, my wife changed her name. You know, she wasn't, her last name wasn't the same no more. That's a new program. That's a new project. I'm hearing that we're going to keep T.W. Josie a part of that. We always been a comprehensive high school. We had the diversified training and stuff going on. But what really bothers me is I heard this same spiel when I went to Tut just to visit to see what I was hearing. The same scenario happening up there, happening down at T.W. Joseph. We done closed so many elementary schools, and I heard somebody say, well, there's no children coming. I don't know who can weigh the one and see who can get pregnant or not, but that's not, we don't have any problem with that. All I'm saying is we can't predict what children coming, what children not coming. We got to be prepared for them. We are the one that we still are the less of the population when it comes to getting those things that we fought for to get in our neighborhoods. The education. When I heard years ago, no child left behind. How many children have we left now? That went out the window a long time ago. Now, I saw this young man earlier, and I said I wasn't going to say a word, but I can't sit here and act like I don't understand now. I don't understand the whole process, but I got common sense now. I understand what I'm saying, and you can make the figures say anything you want them to because you write them down. So I'm not against the program. I'm not against the board. I just want them to be fair and do the same thing across the board to everybody else. If you look around in this community, I said this last time, I got to repeat it again. On Turpin Grand Boulevard, they're supposed to be proposing Habitat for Humanity homes built over there. Okay, that's fine to help somebody. But who else going to build something else besides Habitat when you build that? That means you're going to keep those people the same way they are in that community from now on. Nobody else going to come and build something greater or better. So you got to look at the big picture now. You got to look at what we're doing. It ain't just the board doing it. I fought the city as well. We need to be talking about how we can upgrade. Who's going to move out of the project, out of the hood, get an education, and move back in the hood and raise their children. Nobody's going to do that. So I heard some good and I heard some bad. So somebody don't understand. My biggest problem is keeping T.W. Joseph's name, Comprehensive High School, on this facility. If you're going to add to it, to the program, fine. The young lady just explained something that hit home with me too. To have the training these children going to need, you can't have it part-time. It's got to be a full-time position. It got to be somebody that's going to be able to come in and teach them what they need to have to make their life better. Thank you.
I want to take a moment and thank everybody for the comments. As we wrap up, again, we will have leadership around. They will be around to answer questions. If you have any direct questions, we'll be here to answer questions. We have some paperwork for you. We have some materials that you can take with you. Don't forget, there is a QR code that's available that can answer your frequently asked questions. If you would like to send a question in, we have OnFlow as well that can help you keep up with some of the things that are happening as we come up with more questions as things go on. That's pretty much it? All right, I'm gonna call Trustee Stovall back up. Again, give yourselves a round of applause because everything was wonderful tonight and the presentation was great.
Thank you, Mr. Myers. Thank you again for everyone that came out. Want to refer to a question Mr. Hankerson asked. I'm going to answer that really quick. When you asked about wouldn't it go against our policy to name it new building, living or dead, no, because the name was already there. So if the naming committee vote to keep the name, that is already upholding a name that was already in place. It's not coming up with naming it T.C. Edwards High School. We wouldn't be able to do that because that is a new name that does not fall up under the policy. But the name is already T.W. Josie. So if the naming committee submit to us T.W. Josie, we will vote to keep it T.W. Josie. It does not go against our policy. I want to thank everyone who came up and left, Mr. Hankerson, Mr. Edwards, Chief, Miss Robinson, Miss Avella Robinson, the Miss Robinson, the older Miss Robinson. Thank you for also taking a jab at the commissioner, so we ain't the only one getting hit around here. We appreciate that. We appreciate that. And also Mr. Marion Williams wanted to address what Miss Sheffy Robinson talked about, the 4 E's. That is what we aim to do with this program: enrollment, enlistment, employment, and entrepreneurship. Out of my household, I have 4 children, 3 girls and 1 boy. One boy is 14 years old, so he don't count in this conversation. 2 of them went to college. My youngest daughter attempted to, but we recognize that she is not a traditional college student. So she went to trade school, and she is now an entrepreneur. Her mother is an entrepreneur because we recognize that there is value that we add to our community by bringing in jobs and resources into our community. The whole purpose of this, again, is just proposed ideas. And as we found that when you share your ideas, most of us sat over there and took notes. When you share your ideas, we come together as a board, talk about what we've heard, and then we will decide, you know what, they had a good idea, let's go this way, or let's try this, or what would this look like? We'll come back to Dr. Cobb and her administration and say, if we were to try this, what would that look like? How much would that? And we ask those questions about cost. We ask it about personnel. We ask it about time. And we ask it about impact. Because we want to make sure that when we make these decisions, I am proud of the board members that we have. We all are passionate about our community and our districts. Now, sometimes we go about it in a little different ways. But at the end of the day, when the 10 of us come together, we are passionate about making sure that Richmond County, first of all, stops being compared to Columbia County, and we want to flip the script to where everybody else is compared to us. That is our ultimately, that's our goal. We want to make sure that our students receive the best possible education and education facilities that they can have. We want to make sure when Dr. Cobb talked about everyone, we want everyone to apply. We want certified and qualified individuals that's teaching our students. What most people don't understand about CTAE programs, you have to have experience in that program. I can't just go in and teach welding just because I once put a bike together in my garage. I have to be certified in the area that I plan on teaching. So we're not just going to stick just anybody in front of our students. We want to make sure that when our students leave school, whether they decide to go to college, whether they decide to go into the military, whether they decide to go into the workforce or open up their own business. I don't know if you caught when Dr. Cobb talked about the culinary arts program, opening up a restaurant, people working the front of the house and the back of the house, but also teaching them how to run a business. It's not enough for us to give our students an opportunity to always work for somebody. We want to create opportunities for them to be the employer and not just the employee. So we thank everyone for your time tonight. Again, we heard you. We're listening. I want you to know that every board member that comes here is listening. We want to know. It's going to take community partnerships. It's going to take us working with the industries that's in this community. It's going to take us as parents. It's going to take us as alumni, community members, and it's going to take us as a community as a whole to come together to make sure that we keep the integrity of the process and of our community. Mr. Williams, you are absolutely right. Nobody wants to come out of the ghetto and then come back to the ghetto to raise their children. So what we're hoping to do that, and I'm finna take a hit at you, Mr. Clark, when we come back and create a state-of-the-art school that will put pressure on our community, on our commissioners, to make sure we have state-of-the-art homes, that we have the right people investing in our communities. And that is the goal of us working with our commissioners, and we have people that sit on boards within the community so that we can hear the Board of Education's point of view, so we can hear the community's point of view, so that we can work with our commissioners to make sure that our communities are growing on every front. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. Again, we invite you out this Thursday to our board meeting. We also, if you see the blue signs all the way around, please meet with the department heads that's there to ask your questions about anything dealing with those departments. Thank you so much for your time, and y'all be safe getting home.